What is up, everyone? We are back for episode 83 of the Deep Drive podcast. Today, we are talking about left field, which is a position, to say the least. I don't think it's as talented as the other ones we've covered. We've talked shortstop pretty recently, and shortstop was absolutely loaded with young talent and MVP caliber talent. I feel like this position is kind of lacking. This position is kind of just the top guys are the remnants of positions they just can't play. Like Quan, I believe, played some center fields early in the year, didn't really stick in center, so he had to get moved to left. It's not a very talented position inherently. But James, I think it's a good point to just get started with the list. But before we get started with that, what?
No, we're good.
Oh, okay. Just cut. I got it. All right. So before we get started with our list, I think it's a good spot for us to talk about honorable mentions. Honorable mentions, we talk about multiple.
I don't know if we
need
to at this position. I don't think there are honorable mentions. I think there are guys on this list who probably shouldn't even be honorable mentions.
You know what? You're probably right.
Do we really need to give honorable mentions to Taylor Ward and Christian Yelich? Like those are the two other guys who got votes. Those guys are both frauds.
Whoa. I love Taylor Ward. I'm not. You're speaking for yourself. You're not speaking for me here.
Okay, well, actually, I believe in Yelich a whole lot more than I believe in Ward. I think Ward's last year was kind of a fluke. I mean, you look at his career and he's absolutely dog shit, and then he has one good year. Like I'm gonna have to see more to trust it, right?
Sounds like hating, in my opinion, actually.
Generational hating. Let's go for it.
Yeah, it sounds like hating.
And I mean, Yelich, obviously we know what the ceiling is, right? We know what he can be, what he has been. However, is he a has been?
I think so.
I mean, like, he's a 2-win player, 2.5 3-win player. Like, is this really honorable mention? There's 400 3-win players in the league.
Yelich fucking stinks. Let's get into number 10.
All right, coming in at number 10, we have Andrew Benintendi of the Chicago White Sox, another guy who probably doesn't deserve a mention, but then again, this position is a position, like you said.
Yeah.
White Sox biggest signing in their franchise's history. That's amazing. Good for them. Good for him. He's not very good. If we're going to be honest with ourselves here.
I mean, I think he's a good player. I don't think he's a bad player.
We look at his career. He's had one good season. Like, he has one season above 3 WAR, 2.8 last year, and last year he got overrated by like everyone and their mom. Like, I mean, he was hitting. It's because he was hitting 320. He got to New York. He wasn't great. Didn't play much. Like, you look at this, and this guy he's average at best. 2.3 steamer WAR next year. I mean, come on. Top 10 player and at a position in.
No, I would say, like, we're talked about top threes at every position previous. I feel like this is definitely the weakest one. This is the weakest position in general, but relative to his position, I think this is a good spot for him.
Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree with you. I don't think that the guys who are below him. I do disagree with you. I do think Christian Yelich is a better player.
I think Taylor Ward is better than him. That's
I mean, like, it was Jack who got him way up here. You can call it whatever you want, but like, the bottom of this list is kind of like we were saying with shortstop. We're like, there's probably 6 or 7 guys who are in a very similar tier. Jock Peterson, Mark Canha, Christian Yelich, Taylor Ward, Benintendi, those type of guys. Like, they could all kind of fit in anywhere on this list, and I wouldn't have a problem with any of them. I wouldn't disagree with you. I wouldn't think you're crazy for putting any of them here or, in the next few spots down the list.
Yeah, I think it's a good way, and I think it's a good way to wrap up Benintendi here. So we're going to move on to number 9. James has the list, so that's why I'm not.
Yeah, coming in at number 9, we have Kris Bryant of the Colorado Rockies, another guy like Christian Yelich, former MVP winner. It's tough to know what to expect from Bryant because when he's played, he's been good. The question is whether he's going to play, right? And the other question is, does he even care about playing? It doesn't really seem like it. Like, last year, he played 42 games. He never had, like, a major injury. It was just kind of like he's sitting out here. He's taking a week off. I mean, Ryan, what do you think?
I think Kris Bryant I think it's a matter of if he plays. When he plays, he's good, right? If he plays, he will earn his spot on this list. When Kris Bryant plays, he's a really good player. Projections still think he's a good hitter. I don't think the defense is great at the position, but, this is not a very good position in general anyways. So, quite frankly, I think we kind of share this consensus opinion of, this is a good baseball player, but this is just not a healthy baseball player.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree with you. I think you look at Bryant and you know, it's not like we're expecting, if he plays, we're saying if he plays, it's a big, he'll be good. We're not expecting, 21 WAR in 3 years, Chris Bryant, that he was the first 3 seasons of his career when he first came in with the Rookie of the Year, the MVP, the World Series, three All-Star appearances in a row. We're not looking at that, right? We're looking at, a guy who's probably a 3.5 win player, like he was 2 years ago with the Cubs and then the Giants. That was a good year for Bryant. That's kind of like a 125 WRC plus 3 WAR. That's like it's a decent year. The reason I rank him higher, I think, is because I trust the ceiling, right? I know that, he has it in him to have a 5-win season. And I don't know if the other guys down here towards this part of the list really do.
No, I definitely get it. You got to go with ceiling sometimes, and I think Bryant is a guy who can fly up this list or fly down this list. So, kind of being in the back of the top 10 is a nice little median outcome there for a guy who has a wide distribution of results.
Right. Coming at number 8, we have Tyler O'Neill, another guy like I don't know, like he's had one good year. That's going to become a trend at this position, I think, or at least it has been a trend so far. Guys who've had 1 or 2. In Bryant's case, it was more like 5, but we're looking at guys like Benintendi, Ward, who kind of like 1 or 2 really, good years. That was O'Neill in 2021. He had a 5.5 win season. Everything's there. Like he's a good runner. He's a good fielder. Actually, huge negative defensive season last year. He's just an all around really bad year last year. From O'Neill. So I mean, again, like we're talking about guys here, and I know, like, I keep kind of shitting on them, so it's, I may seem negative, but just really, like, these guys are not really worth mentioning, in my opinion.
Yeah, so the way I look at it is Tyler O'Neill's talent level is so high that this is a ceiling pick, sure, but I just think that the play is there. You mentioned the negative defense, yes, but I think it's more so because of the defensive adjustment. If you play more left field, you get a pretty tough defensive adjustment. He wasn't like all worldly defensively last year. He was just good, and good sometimes isn't really enough. He was dealing with injuries. If you can get back to that defensive excellence that he was at in 2021, this is an excellent player in general. I whenever you have a guy with this level of power, speed, and defensive ceiling, it's hard to not get excited about their chance of putting it together. He's a year removed from a 5.6 WAR year. He has some 3 WAR projections. He has some WRC plus. Like the Bat X loves his offensive outlook for next year. If he could give you a 125 WRC plus with elite defense and great base running, this is one of the best outfielders in baseball.
Yeah, but I just don't know. I was pretty high on O'Neill coming into last year. I think we were, as a consensus, as a group, we were. But then he just really disappointing year. I mean, it's tough to say that O'Neill is not a good or a great player, but I mean, I struggle to not compare this position to other outfield positions in center and right field. Where Tyler O'Neill, I don't know if he'd crack the top 15.
I think he would in center and right. I think just because he's an above average hitter and above average glove, that definitely gets you somewhere in right field.
I mean, is he an above average glove? He's an okay.
No, dude, he's a really good. Come on, let's not cap here. Outfield, 1 out, 1 DRS, 1 OA last year in an injury prone season. The year before, 11
I
and 4.
don't know, like 1. Yeah, cool, 1.
Yeah, but that's still a positive defender in your worst defensive season. If his slow floor that's what his floor has been so far.
Yeah, but it's a positive defender at left field.
Right,
that matters.
But no, I'm not saying it makes him a positive overall defender. What I'm saying is that Tyler
O'Neill. I'm comparing him to center fielders, like I just said.
Even then, center field, right? Like he's a career like league average defensive center fielder with his bat. I mean, he's definitely a top 15 center fielder. Come on, like who are the top 15 center fielders? We're getting to that one day. But I don't know. All
right, coming in.
No, go ahead. All
right, coming in at number 7, we have Randy Arozarena of the Tampa Bay Rays. Arozarena, another guy, 1 good year, right? And it wasn't even a good year. It was a good playoffs, good postseason. But, it wasn't just a good postseason. It was, like, best of all time type postseason. I don't know if you disagree with that.
Yeah, the way I look at it, Randy Arozarena's postseason was great. I think it does do a lot of caring for him, but I still think he's a good baseball player. I just think he's not.
I mean, yeah, again, he's another... Like
he's just not a superstar.
I feel like a lot of these guys are very similar. He is a bad defender. That's not really debatable, I don't think. I don't know if you'd agree with that.
No, I don't think he's not a good defender. I think the defense. I think a lot of people just assume because of the postseason, because he's young and fast and athletic, that this is just a 5-tool player. He has even with his base running last year, wasn't it like a negative BSR?
No,
So
he
he's
had -4. Like that's
right.
not good. That's and it's not
It's
just
bad.
like not good. It's bad. That's bad, right?
Yeah.
Arozarena, I think we know that he can hit the piss out of the ball. Like that's what he does, right? But he's even then 125 WRC plus as a corner outfielder is a little underwhelming. So Jack had him at 6 was the highest. I had him at 9, so he had a pretty decent range of outcomes here, coming in right at number 7. I mean, I think there's not much to say about a lot of these guys. Like they're kind of all the same to me. Like I was saying earlier.
No, I agree. These are all good players that are limited by their defense.
Yeah, I mean, pretty much, or their health. Coming in at number 6, and I think this is where we see like a pretty like massive step up, right? Like these top 6 are actual, quality MLB players. And the bottom of those 6, we have Kyle Schwarber of the Philadelphia Phillies, who Schwarber's a guy, like you kind of know what you're going to get from him, 35 to 40 homers, with a ceiling of nearly 50 last year at 46. But again, 130, 145 WRC plus. I still think I think it's a step up because of the consistency. You kind of know where he's going to be, right? In contrast with like Tyler O'Neill or Randy Arozarena, a guy who you have a larger range of outcomes, right? Schwarber, I think you kind of know what you're going to get.
The way I look at it is Schwarber, but like the thing is, he's also a bad defender. And his WRC plus last year wasn't much higher than, I don't even know if it was much higher than Rosarena's. I'm not saying that Schwarber isn't a very good player. He is, but this is not a guy who's like you mentioned, the WAR for Benintendi. This guy's never had a 3 WAR year. I know he's such a good hitter, but he is legitimately a god-awful defender. And I can at least sit here and try to convince you that Arozarena is going to have some sort of positive regression in the BSR department. These two put up 2 similar but WRC plus last year, 125 for Arozarena, 128 for Schwarber. Arozarena is the better defender. Arozarena is most likely the better base runner. I don't think the gap between these two guys matters. I don't think I'm separating. I think Schwarber sits close in line with
the other guy, I think
the defense is.
I think I'm going to roll that one back. I'm going to go but like these 5, and then I think the next 5 kind of
it's just defense right now.
Bit.
Really, the issue with a lot of these guys is defensively, or with O'Neill's case, health wise.
Yeah, and then so coming in at number 5, we have Masataka Yoshida of the Boston Red Sox. I know he's never played an MLB game, I don't care. He's a 29-year-old, and I think it's a little bit different coming over from another professional league like Yoshida compared to the minor leagues which obviously is a professional league, but you know what I mean. With NPB, where it's kind of like it's a step up from AAA, right? But a step down from the majors. Yoshida rakes. He had a 1,007 OPS last year, in 121 games. Year before that, 983. Year before that, 966, 956, 956, 917. So I mean, he's been since 2017. He's had a 900 or higher OPS in each of his years. He doesn't homer a ton, but he hits a lot of doubles, lots of hits. He's a great walk rate. He doesn't strike out. Even the Steamer projects him to have a higher walk rate than strikeout rate in his first year in the major leagues. I think that's a little ambitious, just given the adjustment between Japanese league pitching and then American league American league pitching. But I think Yoshida. There is definitely a wide range of outcomes here. There's definitely an outcome where he's a 4 or 5 win player, but there's also one where he's a 2.5 win guy, just like every other guy on this list.
Yeah, the way I look at it is, again, you can't just rank players on projections no matter how hard I try. But when every projection system says you're going to be a good hitter, a really good hitter, it's hard for me to sit here and say, well, in my opinion, he's not that good, and say that's a fair way to look at things. The tools are great. The hit tool's phenomenal. Some people in the Boston camp are reporting he has better exit velocities than they initially perceived. If the glove isn't atrocious, he'll probably end up having the highest WRC plus or second highest WRC plus behind Kyle Schwarber or ahead of Kyle Schwarber.
You mean
He's
like out of the guys we've mentioned, or on the whole
yes,
list?
on the mention as other guys you've mentioned so far. I think he's this first or second best hitter, and he's definitely he's most likely a better defender than Schwarber because of how bad Schwarber is
I mean,
defensively.
it's pretty hard to be worse.
Yeah, and then on top of that too, you mentioned with the hit tool, the walk rates, the strikeout rates, that gives you a pretty high floor, because when you're struggling, you're still able to work walks. So, and when you make good swing decisions, you're oftentimes swinging at good pitches to hit. I think he has an ability to really fly up this list. He's a really good baseball player we're talking about here, folks.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if we're talking about Yoshida next year, and it's like, oh, he's the number one, maybe not number one, just given who is sitting at number one on this list, but the number 2 or number 3 left fielder in baseball. But I also wouldn't be surprised if we're here next year and he's just kind of grouped in with that group of 15 left fielders who are all the same and provide nothing other that can't be replaced. There's, you know what I mean? Like I feel like Yelich's production at this point in his career, or Peterson, Canna, those guys,
No,
it's
I don't
all pretty
disagree.
replaceable. Coming in at number 4, we have Dalton Varsho of the Toronto Blue Jays now. Varsho's, he's a great all-around baseball player. He can play pretty much anywhere, right? He plays catcher, plays outfield, plays all 3 outfield spots. Last year, he played 71 games in right, 54 in center, 31 behind the plate. And then next year, he's projected to play left. He had a 4.6 WAR season last year with just a 106 WRC plus. So that's a little concerning. I don't understand how Zips is so high on him, 132. That's an outrageous
It's broken.
projection.
Zips is pretty broken for some guys. Like they have like a 140 guy, and it's all off.
Yeah, I mean, like we're looking at a guy who outperformed his xWOBA by 30 points last year and still only had a 106 WRC plus.
Yeah, no, they're smoking. They're smoking.
I think Varsho's calling card is more so his glove, and I don't know if that's really going to play well for him in left field, which is also why I ranked him a lot lower than you guys. I think you guys are just astronomically high on him. I think it's too high. But I mean, I just, again, Varsho's another guy. Like he's kind of the opposite of the other guys, where it's like he's good glove, bad bat versus bad glove, good bat. So I mean, yeah, he had 16 DEF last year, but he also played the vast majority of his games. Not vast, but he played the majority of his games at 2 premium positions in catcher and center field. And then you're going to move him to the corner outfield. So, you kind of need more from him with the bat to sustain a high WAR. I think I'd probably assume he's closer to 3 than 4.5 like he was last year.
That's fair. I guess it's just because the guys behind him I also don't view as – I view Varsho as just having a higher floor. So I was comfortable ranking him really high.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that we're talking about a guy who we're ranking highly because of a high floor coming in at number 3 on your list is fucking ridiculous. But that
welcome
just
to left field baseball.
Yeah, welcome to left field, for real. Coming in at number 3, we have Ian Happ of the Chicago Cubs. He was an all-star last year. Again, Happ, another guy, I think he gets a lot of hype. Well, actually, I know he gets a lot of hype around, he's very likable player, right? He hits well. He won the Gold Glove last year and had -4 DEF. I don't know how I feel about that, but 3.5 WAR last year, the best season of his career. I mean, again, like nothing special here, right? From Ian Happ.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't as high on him as you are just because I don't believe in the bat nearly as much. I think he's a good hitter, not a great one. The glove may be pretty good. I mean, I think he's definitely established himself as like above the Schwarbers of the world, just like on a player value basis because he does other things very well. But I don't think he's that far off. I think he's like better, but not that much better. So, I mean, but I still think he's a really good player. I don't think there's anything wrong with ranking him here. He's just and I just, and at the deadline, either a team is going to be very happy trading for him or the Cubs are going to be very happy to keep him around for a very long time.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, are the Cubs gonna be happy to keep him around? Like as a Cubs fan, I don't know if I would be that happy with keeping him around.
If it's on a good value extension, like let's say the Cubs next year win a sustainable 82, 83 games, and they.
Yeah, I mean,
I
think the most I'd be willing to give him is like maybe 15 a year.
15 a year. Give him like 15 a year for like 4 years.
I give him like 575.
Yeah, I mean I think that's a long time. Keeping a player for 5 years after they hit free agency, that's a pretty decent amount of time.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely don't disagree with you. I'm just saying, like, and maybe 15 is generous.
It depends on this year. This year
I mean,
depends
it
on this
really
year.
it just feels like it's so replaceable. Even though we're ranking him at number 3 on this list, it just feels like there's 15 center fielders who could put up a 3.5 WAR in left field.
No, I don't disagree. I just think that how do I put it? I think it depends on this year. If he kind of repeats last year, then yeah, I mean you're fine giving him that contract.
Yeah, but then if he repeats 2021, you
No,
want to
then
cut ties with
you
him
just
immediately.
you just trade for what you can at the deadline. It's still valuable with deadline. Teams need hitting and they'll buy on the bat, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. And I think this is just not close between 3 and 2, right? And then 2 and 1, obviously. But coming in at number 2, we have Stephen Kwan of the Cleveland Guardians. Stephen Kwan is just so much better than anyone else we've mentioned. Like, this is where we're starting to get into players who are actually good. Kwan in his rookie year last year had a 4.5 WAR season, a 124 WRC plus. His glove's amazing. He's a great base runner, great hitter. Doesn't homer a ton, only 6 homers last year, but that's not his game. He walks a lot, never strikes out. I mean, like, Stephen Kwan is a 1990, not 1990s, like a 1970s baseball fan's wet dream.
The way I look at it is Stephen Kwan has such a good floor with his base running and his defense and the bat, as you mentioned. I wanted to specifically pull up one stat from his Fangraphs page. I'm sorry that I'm typing because that makes a lot of noise. But he had more walks and strikeouts last year. Even like an ISO over 100, I don't think is bad for a guy whose skill set is the way it is. Do I think there's
yeah,
some more
especially considering he's hitting 300, like
right? No, and it's another thing here. Maybe this is a hot take. I don't think this is too hot of a take. I can definitely see more extra base hits next year. Not more home runs per se, but more extra base hits next year. He's triples machine. He's doubles machine. If he can lean into his power a little bit more, because his power isn't good, but I think you can get a little bit more out of it. He could be a really, really, really good hitter next year. But if he's just what he is last year for the rest of his career, this is a really good player.
If he is what he is last year for the rest of his
career
and he does it for 10, 12 years, like, he's probably a Hall of Famer.
The way I look at it is like he's in his physical prime, so it's not like I'm expecting progression, but I think that's fine because he's just already pretty good.
No, he's so good.
Really good.
Kwan's a guy. I think these projections are really low, and the Bad X only has 2.4 WAR. I think that's unbelievable, to be honest. But maybe last year was a little fluky. You could argue. I think you could make the argument because it was his rookie year. But then again, like his
295 BABIP though from Zips, nah.
But the way he plays feels so sustainable, right? Like, I don't think anything's going to stop him from slapping singles between the shortstop and third baseman.
Yeah, and another thing, so the reason they're low on his WAR is his defensive value, they're regressing it. His base running value, they're significantly regressing it. And his WRC plus, they're regressing it. Because
I just don't see how you expect a guy who's 24 years old to fall off
I don't see
5 runs on the bases and 4 runs with the glove. It really doesn't make sense to me.
I mean, they're expecting him to walk more than he strike out more than he's walked for the first time in his career, which I think is a little much. I think that's a little excessive.
Well, I mean, the first time in his career, he's a rookie, right?
Right. I mean, no. Even in his minor league career, he's never struck out more than he's walked in a season.
Right. I mean, yeah, but minor leagues is
no. I know. I'm just saying
to project.
But it's not like they project to be close. They project it to be a pretty wide gap, like 8% walk rate to a 10% strikeout rate. I just don't see that.
I agree with you. I think these projections are just across the board. They're way too low on Kwan. He's way better than this. And then coming in at number 1, we have a new left fielder who's probably not actually a left fielder. I don't even know. Like I couldn't tell you where the Padres plan on playing anyone, except Bogaerts, because they've kind of come out and said that he's going to be playing shortstop, right? But Fernando Tatis Jr. played 0 games in 2022. However, he comes in still at number 1. He is a superstar, and he's the only one at this position.
He is special. He's a special player, man. Offensively, base running wise, a fucking monster. Probably profiles to be a pretty good left fielder if he can, because he has pretty good range. Yes, he had throwing issues at shortstop, but I think kind of letting him air it out from the outfield is going to be fucking sick. Like, could you imagine just Tatis throwing he's just throwing howitzers from the outfield. He's got a ridiculous arm. The power is immaculate. The speed is immaculate. This is an immaculately talented player. I get it. We need to see him play, but I've seen enough of Fernando Tatis Jr. to tell you this dude's the best left fielder in baseball, bar none. As you mentioned, the only guy there with superstar talent, only one there. I think you're muted.
You are right. I am muted. Fernando Tatis, like I was saying, I think for the next 10, 15 years, we could be looking at a guy who's an MVP candidate every single year as long as he plays. And now the as long as he plays thing might start to become an issue considering he hasn't played. And, he's not projected. He's suspended for how many games start the year? Like 20, 25? Not a huge
Not a
deal.
lot. He'll be back before May.
Right. I mean, yeah, like obviously the PED thing, I don't care. Like, quite frankly, I don't think it matters.
I just, at end of the day, man, like, he's just so talented. He's so talented.
He's so good that I refuse to believe it's that's the cause.
Yeah, the issue with his health availabilities, he just seems to be kind of an idiot. But yeah,
no, he definitely. I mean, just based on like his track record, and I obviously we don't know him personally, so the whole he's an idiot thing, I don't know.
He is an idiot thing. I feel like you don't have to know him.
Yeah, I mean, like it feels like he's done some really stupid shit throughout, his only 3 years in the majors. Well, 4 if we include last year, which he missed the entire year because of stupid shit. But then again, 42 home runs last year. Not last year, 2 years ago, and only 130 games. Like he's very capable of hitting 50 homers in a year. He's probably a top 5 player in baseball when he's healthy. I mean,
yeah, he's special, man. He's I think top 3 when healthy.
Yeah, maybe.
I think if he didn't get hurt last year,
I think playing left field is going to hurt him a little bit compared to shortstop.
Obviously, yeah. Maybe not. Maybe he's not an all. Maybe he's a better defender there. But you're right. The defensive adjustment still helped.
Right, and it hurts not to have it for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, I think we can kind of wrap it up there. Do you have anything else to add?
No, not really. I think this position is kind of like meh. It's just not a great position. But as guys move here from center field or whatever it may be, maybe this position gets a little bit better next year. Who knows?
Yeah, I mean, and then the other thing is like the right field position. You look at it, and there's superstars from 1 to 6 on that list. It's surprising that they're the same position, right and left field. That they're not wildly different in any way. In fact, they are quite literally the same. They do the same thing, right? A right fielder and a left fielder. Like center field is a little different because it's tougher defensively, but right and left. But it's interesting that this, if we were to go rank the top 10 corner outfielders, I think you'd rank 9, maybe 8 right fielders and 2 left fielders.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's why we end up with guys like Andrew Benintendi and Chris Bryant, who in Benintendi's case probably hasn't been good in 4 years, and Bryant the same.
They just wouldn't make you'd think about it, but they would not be making a right field list.
Or a center field list, or a third base list, or a second base list, or a shortstop list, or a first base list. Like,
yeah,
they're just not. They're not top 10 players at their position, but they have to be because this position is so awful.
Yeah, I think that's the best way to put it. But, thank you guys so much for checking us out. Let us know what your guys' left field list would be. I think this is one that there's going to be a lot of varying answers. We had some guys shift around a little bit just because there's 3 people voting for one kind of joint list. So let us know what you guys would change. We'd love to hear your guys' opinions. Thank you guys so much for your continued support, and we'll see you guys in episode 84. Peace out.